Hey guys, welcome to Reader's Workshop today. Today we are going to practice again reading, or not practice because we're pretty much good at it by now. We are going to be using our reading voice and thinking voice to describe the characters in the story. So first I have a chart up here thinking about characters. When we read, actually our weekly story this week is a fable. There are two main characters in the story. Remember, a character is the people or animals that the story is about, or that is in the story. Remember, for fables, almost every fable uses animals as their main characters. And the animals in the story have human traits and they act like people. We're going to think about those characters, and before we, I will have you guys listen to the story again, and before we work on describing the characters in the story, what kinds of things, let's talk about the kinds of things we think about as we're reading stories, okay? What kinds of things are thinking voices saying while we're listening to the words or reading the words about the characters? So the main one, I think anyway, is how do they feel? How do the characters feel throughout the story? This could be a describing word when we're describing our characters. Do they feel happy? Do they feel sad? Okay? Are they angry? Do they feel tired? How do our characters feel in the story? Then we kind of want to think about, what do the characters want in the story? Okay? We are not just reading the story. Usually the characters in the story, they want something. What are they wanting to get out of the story, right? What are the characters like? Who do they remind us of? As we're reading or listening to the story, and we're listening about the characters in the story, our thinking voice might say, oh my gosh, that character reminds me of my mom, or that character reminds me of my brother. Who do the characters in the story remind you of? You could also make the connection to another story. As you're reading about characters, or about the characters in the story, you could say, oh my gosh, that reminds me of Henry in the story we read, Henry on Wheels. Okay? So you can also make those connections between stories. How do the characters act in the story? Okay? Do they help each other? Are they selfish? Do they not help each other? Okay? What are they good at? As you're reading stories, you can be thinking about, ooh, this character can do this and this. They must be good at something, okay? What are the characters good at? What do they look like? You can use the actual pictures to help you with those describing words. Are they tall? Are they short? Do they have long hair? Do they have short hair? Is their hair black or brown or curly? Okay? Describing what they look like. So all of these thoughts we can have as our reading voice is reading the story and telling us what the characters are like in the story. Okay? So we're going to read the story, and then we're going to use our thinking voice to think about how our characters are in the story and to describe them by using describing words, okay? Now, all of my markers are missing. It's a mystery. Okay, the characters in our story, if you remember listening to the story, we have the ant and the grasshopper. So as you listen to the story today, you are going to be using your thinking voice, and you are going to be thinking about how you can describe these characters. And I'm trying to decide how I want to do this. I think hold on. Okay, we're going to do this together. So I'm going to read the story to you right here, and then we will write down some of the traits from our characters. So remember, we listened to the story yesterday. We have two characters in our story, the ant and the grasshopper. And in fact, that is the title of the story, The Ant and the Grasshopper. An ant lived next to a grasshopper in a large field. Okay, so we know that if they live next to each other, my thinking voice is saying, ooh, I bet they're next door neighbors, right? Usually when somebody lives next to somebody else, that means they're neighbors, okay? I can write neighbors. I'll just write it across. Okay. The ant woke early each summer morning. He was a hard worker. All day long, the ant gathered food. He stored it in his home. So right away, our reading voice tells us the ant is a hard worker. We know that because that's what the story says. He is a hard worker. Okay, he wakes up early. And he stores his food in his home. He gathers food all day long. The grasshopper woke up singing every summer morning. He had a nice voice. He loved to make music. All day long, he sang and danced. So right there we know that the grasshopper loves making music. He loves music. So that might tell us, if my reading voice is saying he loves music, he has a nice voice, my thinking voice is saying, oh, he is a good singer, okay? I might even say he's a good performer because it says that he likes to sing and dance. Good at singing. Come sing with me, the grasshopper said whenever he saw the ant. The ant's answer was always the same. I can't stop now, he said. Not even for one song, the grasshopper begged. It is a lovely day. But the ant kept working. So my thinking voice is telling me that the ant is very focused, okay? He's not letting the grasshopper distract him from what he wants to do. My thinking voice is also telling me that the grasshopper might be feeling a little bit sad that the ant isn't singing songs with him, right? So maybe he feels a little sad. Or I could say he wants and he might be feeling sad that the ant says no, right? On rainy days, the grasshopper sat around at home and he made up songs. The ant worked at home on rainy days. He prepared and stored his food for winter. Okay, so we know he's still working really hard. One winter day, the grasshopper went to look for food, but he found nothing. Okay, so the grasshopper all of a sudden decides to go to look for food, but he didn't find anything. So my thinking voice might be telling me, I wonder if he's going to go ask the ant for food. And my thinking voice is also telling me, maybe he's a little bit worried that he doesn't have food. The grasshopper knocked on the ant's door. He asked for some food. You spent all summer singing, but I worked, the ant said. Now you can spend the winter dancing to keep warm. Oh, my thinking voice is telling me that the ant is probably feeling a little bit annoyed that the grasshopper is coming and asking for his food. He's bothered by it, right? He said, no way, I worked hard and all you wanted to do is sing. You're not going to take my food that I worked hard for. But I know you have food, said the grasshopper. Well, that's because I spent the summer getting ready for winter, the ant replied. There's a time for work and a time for play, the ant said. Okay, so, and I'm looking at the picture at the end of the story, and it looks like Grasshopper is sad at the end of the story because the ant is not sharing his food, right? Okay. Alrighty. So what you're going to do is I want you to listen to the story again on your own, and then you are going to fill out your own charts describing each of these characters.